Welcome to the CFB Dynasty Podcast with hosts Matt Knowles and Brian McElfish.
Hey everybody, how you doing out there? This is a very special edition of the CFBDynasty.com podcast. Why is it so special? Because you got me and this guy BMAC and that guy Doug Gravely all in the same place at the same time at the CFBDynasty.com studios. BMAC, Doug, I'll give you guys the question. What do you think about us all being in here at the same place at the same time? BMAC, you go first.
It's interesting. I think it'll be fun to kind of just, kick it up downtown Ocala here in the Searchalytics office in the podcast room. So excited to maybe give this a go and see if we like it, see if we can figure out how to finagle the lights and all that to be good in the future.
Doug, what about you? What do you think about being in the same place at the same time to record today?
Oh, man, I like it. I think we're going to be able to feed off of each other a little bit better. Well, it was definitely a fun process watching you and Brian trying to set this up. So that was interesting.
This is only about the 17th try to try and get this thing started today. We've had little things with the lights, with the big board in the back, with the Jumbotron. But you know what? We're going to have some fun with it. So today's topic is, for the first time ever for 2023, we're going to talk about the quarterback rankings, preseason quarterback rankings 2023 for college fantasy football. BMAC, let's talk about the process to put together this list, and how confident are you in the rankings that you have today?
Yeah, this is more of a team effort, right? So Doug and I were working on this, a while back, and basically we go through it, and it's pretty much an aggregate of our rankings, and we'll display it more like that as we get to the season, where you'll see who Matt has there, who Doug has, who I have, and then we'll create a formula to make it, visually showcase like that on the site, and kind of average out the positions. But yeah, we're going over, players, obviously watching footage on YouTube and different things, but looking at stats and looking at coaching changes and all the things that go into the ultimate opportunity for fantasy points. It's more of a probability thing than a guarantee, obviously. So we're trying to put the math to work in your favor.
Doug, what about you? This is the first time you've been involved in the preseason rankings. So what did you feel going through? What kind of responsibility did you feel going, man, we're probably going to be one of the first sites to actually put the rankings out for 2023. This could change. It's kind of like the preseason college football rankings. You know that when you're the preseason number one, that if you lose a game, it's going to be a lot different than a guy that's outside the top 25. So what kind of responsibility did you feel when you were putting this list together with BMAC?
So not a whole lot, honestly. I think working with BMAC, who's done this before, made it a lot easier. But it's fun putting guys in these lists that are potentially taking over a team. So there's a lot that goes into thinking about it, like BMAC said. And I think that, the responsibility, I guess, can be greater. But at the end of the day, like we said, it's a preseason ranking and it could change.
And right now, all this is up for free on CFBDynasty.com.
Just the top 25.
Just the top 25. Yeah. So
if you go into quarterbacks and then you go to like Draft Central, that's where you'll see the top 133 ranked. And again, that is the one that's going to be moving all the time. We won't change these early preseason rankings. These will be there, and then we'll be moving around for the subscribers, as we get news and all that stuff going in. Speaking of which, we'll be going into the expert Q&A, which is where we'll be reaching out to writers and people that are, hopefully at practices when they can be, that kind of stuff, and talking about college fantasy and breakout performers and all that stuff that does affect rankings, and it has in the past in a really positive way. So that part should be hopefully coming out soon as we start getting some outreach done, some responses, and it'll affect these rankings and depth charts that we have a lot.
So if you're out there, you definitely want to be subscribing to the CFBDynasty.com site. That way you can get a leg up when you guys get to your fantasy draft. It's probably going to be happening in August. That way you can start getting your rankings together and get a leg up on the other guys that are in your league. And also, if you're somebody that's out there that is actually covering a college football program or a conference, whether either we're going to reach out to you or you guys feel free to reach out to us because we want your input. You're going to have your legs deeper in that pool, so to speak, when you're talking about somebody that's covering a conference or covering a team. So we want your input because your input could change the way that some of the rankings are looked at.
Yeah, and as we get closer to the season, we'll be able to hopefully showcase some behind-the-scenes looks on Discord, et cetera, for all of the tools that we have coming out. That's going to help you with any of your DFS or DraftKings, whatever, FanDuel, weekly sports, and then your standard fantasy, of course, is going to help you out a ton. And cannot wait to kind of show you guys what's being worked on behind the scenes. But yeah, for now, we've got the rankings, and the big addition that's exciting for us would be the logos added to the site, so you can check that out. A little more colorful now, trying to make it a little less like I like it, where it's all data spreadsheet style looking, and a little bit easier on the eyes, easier to read and all that stuff. I've got that feedback from so many people, especially guys in our league like Dillingham, et cetera, who's like, man, why can't you just make it more simplified? So that's what we're working on. But feedback helps a ton, helps shift the way we do things, as Matt said. So here to learn alongside you guys and dominate our fantasy
Really
leagues.
quick, speaking of feedback, and I know we've talked about this, I want to give a shout out to Brett P real quick over on the West Coast. He's always giving us feedback, always talking to us, communicating with us. So I just wanted to give you a shout out, Brett. You're the man.
All right. So without further ado, we're going to go start looking at the top 25 preseason quarterback rankings. What we're going to do is we're going to go in segments of 5. We're going to look at 21 through 25 right now. We're just going to name off those 5. And then if you guys have any commentary about why these guys are in that 21 to 25 rank, we'll go from there. So 25 through 21. At 25, we got Oklahoma's Dylan Gabriel. 24, we got Penn State's Drew Aller. 23, you got Utah's Cameron Rising. 22, Texas's Quinn Ewers. And at 21, my boy from Coastal Carolina, Grayson McCall.
Boy. Yeah.
So let's talk about those 5: Gabriel, Aller, Rising, Ewers, and McCall. What put those guys into the 21 to 25 position? Talk about whatever one you want to.
Yeah, 25 starts off a little bit. It's like a low floor or high floor, low ceiling kind of guy where he's gonna be good. You know, they are replacing a lot of receivers, but Gabriel's been there, done that for 4, maybe 5 years now between UCF and Oklahoma. And he doesn't have the dual threat. He's not going to run 10 touchdowns or whatever like Grayson McCall will. So I like Gabriel. He's a good QB2, QB3 range type of guy, depending on if you've got a standard 12-team league or whatever. But I like him. I think he's good. Same with Cam Rising. I think he's really good, but Cam Rising adds that rushing ability. Mm-hmm. Love Ewers. The way they looked in the spring game. Don't want to overreact to the spring game, of course, but the weapons they have at Texas, just got to love what Quinn Ewers is doing there.
Doug, who stands out for you in that 21 to 25 group?
Well, Brian's boy, Penn State quarterback Drew Aller. I think he arguably has the best arm in college football. He's an athletic guy, but the coaching staff at Penn State with Drew Aller, I think he's going to shine. I think they're going to do a great job, and one that we could be dealing with in our fantasy league for a long time when he goes pro for Brian, because I think he's got the potential to be very successful there as well.
Yep, for sure. I love the Penn State offense. I think, though, they will lean more heavily on Katron Allen and Nick Singleton early on in the season while they kind of get his feet wet, so to speak. And then you'll see him kind of break out, probably getting into that 4th, 5th, 6th game, somewhere in there.
All right. So that being said, now we're going to move on to 16 through 20. At 20, you got Cade Klubnik from Clemson. At Toledo, you got Daquan Finn at 19. Then you got at 18, Sam Hartman transferring to Notre Dame. At 17, you've got Jalen Milroe winning the job at Alabama. And then at 16, you got Jaden Daniels from LSU. So you have a whole lot of Power 5, big-time quarterbacks, big-time schools there. So tell me how hard was it for you guys to throw DeQuan Finn from Toledo in the middle of all these Power 5 guys?
Oh, easy, man. He's a known commodity. So DeQuan Finn has been good for 2 years. He's going to come in. I think this will be his junior year. Who's to say what the eligibility actually is? Nobody really knows, I don't think. But DeQuan Finn is legit. So he's dual threat guy, and he's just going to get his. I think maybe 30. Like, he had some big games though. I think he had 66 or something like that one game. So he's got super high ceiling in terms of what he can do in that Toledo offense. Hartman, they say he's in a quarterback battle. He's so good.
I don't believe that at all.
No.
I think that's just trying to motivate him. You don't have a guy like Sam Hartman come from Notre Dame and put him in a battle. That's just trying to motivate him to be elite.
Yeah, and I like him. What I think that's going to do is it's going to force us to rank some Notre Dame receivers higher than normal. And there's a couple that I really like, but we'll see who kind of breaks out. Like, Hartman is so good. I think he's bust proof, and that's kind of hard to say, but he took the Wake Forest offense. He averaged 32-ish fantasy points per game last year. He's got a higher ceiling. He'd be higher, if he went to a school that had, higher propensity of passing the ball, whatever. But Hartman's so good. So good.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see a quarterback battle there at all. But hey, whatever. What am I to know? I'm not there at practices. So, but I think Jalen Milroe. We'll know more on Saturday, I believe, after the spring game. But to me, he's got the tools to be top 20 guy and could potentially move up even higher if Alabama can figure out the passing game. Definitely a lot more than they did last year. But we've talked about this before. I think Alabama is going to be kind of old schoolish. They're going to run the ball a lot, but Jalen Milroe has the potential to run the ball a lot. So
he is like I think I put this on Twitter. I think he's got the potential to be the biggest weapon in all of college football. Like, he's that talented if he can throw
right
and throw on time and avoid turnovers. Like, that's going to be a big thing, as Alabama is going to really feature their running backs this year. But, if that's the case, I think you got to really like Milroe there if he can control the ball, obviously move the offense down the field, avoid the turnovers. And then you got Jaden Daniels in the same conference there, who was kind of unexciting to me. I really don't know why.
Probably because he got 0.2 points in a fantasy football game at one point. But
yeah, they got a slow start. But, I mean, he ended the year averaging 26 and a half, and that's all right. He's going to be the focal point of the offense. And if you listen to the show during the season last year, you know why I didn't really like him that much, because I was, Keyshawn Butte owner in multiple leagues, and
a milk carton staple.
Yeah, just didn't really get him the ball that often, and maybe he just forgot how to play football, whatever.
Yeah, possible. Matt, let me ask you.
All right.
The guy at 20, Cade Klubnik, what do you think of that guy?
I think Klubnik is definitely going to be a star. I hate the fact that he's going to be such a star because, I'm North Carolina State Wolfpack through and through.
That's why I asked.
However, I think that in the small amount of time that he played last year, you got to see why he was a lead and DJU was just not the right quarterback for the Clemson offense. And Klubnik just definitely looked like what the Clemson fans were wanting as the successor to Trevor Lawrence. But it's always hard to be somebody that follows up a quarterback that is just unbelievably elite. And I think that just the expectations on DJU were just unrealistic for what he was. But Klubnik is definitely the kind of guy that can come back in and bring back that glory at Clemson.
And the biggest thing that you love, obviously, is a fresh start, but then you get the new OC that comes in, Garrett Riley from TCU. So love the potential there with Antonio Williams, with the other receivers that they have on the roster. I think they're going to be, potentially really good. They've got a good running game, and they've got a good schedule. So I think definitely Klubnik is at 20 is good. He could outperform that. We'll see how much he runs the ball. Really don't know yet.
All right, so let's move on to 15 through 11. 15, you got KJ Jefferson from Arkansas. Jordan Travis from FSU at 14. Joe Milton, you got winning the job at Tennessee at 13. Donovan Smith winning the job at Houston at number 12, and Tyler Shaw from Texas Tech at 11. So let's go over what are your thoughts on the group that you guys have assembled in 11 through 15.
First of all, the Tyler, you say Shao. That's what it looks like, right? But they say shuck, whatever. Anyways,
shucks, I said it wrong. Yeah. My bad. To all you Texas Tech fans out there, I apologize.
Yeah, I like him a lot there in that group. But Donovan Smith is more of the Dana Holgerson quarterback position. He might not win that job, but if he can kind of put things together and turn the ball over less than he has and complete passes at a higher percentage in that offense, he's got potential to be great, throwing to Matthew Golden, of course, and others. So Nico, though, Iamaleava, or however you say his name.
Right.
He looked great in the spring game. I don't know if you got to catch that or not, but Tennessee's in good hands for years. I think Joe Milton, though, if he wins that job, he's got top 10 potential.
Another guy like Aller who's got a amazing arm.
Yeah.
He's got a cannon. If he can, sometimes just make better decisions with the football, then, like you said, the potential to be incredible. The two that stand out to me the most, and those of you that have watched prior podcasts know my feelings on Donovan Smith at Houston. So, I'm not a big fan, but we'll see if, Brian sliding him in at 12 against my better judgment, slaps me in the face later this year. We'll see. But
I got a question for you guys. So your guy ranked at number 14. Do you think that Jordan Travis at Florida State is going to get some excitement back so they might have more than 50 people at their spring game in 2024? What was that?
I think Jordan Travis, with the tight ends they brought into that team, the receivers they still have, and Trey Benson being one of our breakout running backs, obviously, there's going to be so much pressure taken off of him than he's felt in the past. And I think he's just going to be able to play his game. And the fact that they kind of let him play his game a lot more last year shows you what he can do and shows you his potential. And I think Jordan Travis could potentially be, in my opinion, a top 10 quarterback by the time this season's over.
Yeah, and they're number one in returning production. 80% of their offense returns. Really incredible. I think they're going to have the receivers are going to be better. And then you add in
guys. It pains Brian to say stuff like this, by the way.
No, it's all good, man. I enjoyed it in the 90s growing up when Florida State, and Miami all were good, and those games were fantastic. Yeah, the most painful thing is just I watched Florida spring game live, and that's the most recent painful thing that I've done in quite a while.
I've said it for a while. Danny, who's part of our league and a big Florida State fan, I kind of miss the glory days of Florida State meaning something at the end of the year, and potentially Florida State being in the conversation this year, could make all their games really fun.
Yeah, but FSU is going to be legit. So,
yeah.
Florida's going to have to figure out their thing. I like where their things are heading. But anyways, like that FSU offense is going to be a known commodity. Can't wait to see whenever they play Clemson, how that game turns out. Because I think they're neck and neck, exact same odds to win the ACC. So that's going to be, it's been a while since it's been like that. It's typically Clemson, huge gap, everyone else. Not anymore. This Florida State offense is going to be legit. And Trey Benson, Doug mentioned breakout running backs. If you haven't seen it, we did a video version of our breakout running backs on YouTube. Check it out. We would love some feedback there. I think it's pretty cool. It's a highlights version of it instead of just a list on the website.
So if you guys are checking out this list, basically one of the themes of the list is if you pick a starting quarterback from the state of Texas, you're probably going to be in good shape because we're talking about 5 of 6 in this group that we're in right now are in the state of Texas. We're going to move on, and we're going to actually go from 10 to 7 right now because of this theme. So you have at 10, you got Preston Stone at SMU. You got Frank Harris, who's like the 17th year senior at UTSA. Frank Harris, I got a lot of love and respect for Frank Harris. I really love the way he plays, but it's just hilarious that he's still in there. I've had Frank Harris on my team, I feel like, since I was in high school, which you guys know is a long time ago. But yeah, Frank Harris, I don't have a problem with him being on my roster because he always is getting some points. Then you've got Michael Pratt, who's sneaking in there, busting up that Texas Texas stranglehold at 8, and then you've got Chandler Morris from TCU at 7. So let's talk about those guys from 10 to 7 now. Morris, Pratt, Harris, and Stone. Why do you guys have that group all bunched up together?
Well, of course, like you said, Harris, has a ton of experience, and everyone that he throws the ball to is back. When you have arguably 3 receivers that post top 100 receiver numbers in fantasy, you got to like the quarterback. And he's a dual threat. He likes to run. The only question I have is how their offensive line is going to be this year. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the question.
So could he move down a little bit? Maybe. But could he stay about where he's at? Maybe. I think, like I said, the only question with UTSA is that offensive line this year. But I think you got to like Frank Harris to just make plays because that's what he's been doing for, like you said, the 27 years he's been in college football. Then you got, in my opinion, probably the best one on this list from my point of view, not just because I have him on my team, but Michael Pratt. I just think he's a great quarterback, and I could see him doing the same thing he's doing at Tulane if he went to a bigger Power 5 school in like a Oregon or North Carolina. He would probably do the same thing. Florida would be great, okay? But listen, I mean, we'll see what happens there.
You guys have these quarterbacks. Then he says Pratt. You probably say Harris. Would you swap? Would you rather have Pratt or would you roll with Harris this year? So for stats wise, Harris averaged 5 more fantasy points a game than Pratt last year.
I would consider going straight up on that one. I'm not saying I wouldn't roll with Frank Harris, but my quarterback crew has been oddly too consistent. Or like when I say that, I mean guys that have just stayed in college football, guys that you thought were going to graduate or do something. I've had the same 5 guys on my team for 3 years, and I'm actually looking to get rid of somebody, not because I don't like them, but because you want to have some kind of newness there. You know what the ceiling is, you know what their floor is, and you want to be able to try and get something going on. So I wouldn't have a problem with potentially doing that.
Yeah, straight up trade could be fun, but man, that's kind of nerve-wracking, Frank Harris, his knees might go out eventually or something. I don't know.
He might be collecting Social Security before the end of the season at this point.
He might wake up in the morning, his back hurts more than Pratt. I don't know what's going on there, but we'll see. But arguably the most exciting young kid on this list for me is potentially Chandler Morris. I mean, if TCU can kind of pick up where they left off, Chandler Morris, before he got hurt, looked great too. So I don't know. I mean, Chandler Morris could be really fun as the young guy on this list that we just talked about, though.
Definitely. Yep. Yeah, and that offense and just seeing what they can do. Like Morris, when he came out, he had a huge game. I can't remember, 400 yards passing, I think, 4 touchdowns plus maybe. But he won that job over Duggan that got hurt. So I think the offense obviously is in good hands there with Chandler Morris, dual threat guy, huge potential.
All right, looking at 6, 5, and 4 now. Then for the top 3, we're going to take them one at a time. So 6, 5, and 4. At 6, you got Kyle McCord winning the job at Ohio State. Michael Penix Jr. at Washington at number 5. Drake May, no surprise there, seeing him at number 4. So what are your thoughts on the group there, 6, 5, and 4?
So Kyle McCord, didn't look great in the spring game. That's the only one we really get to see live, but he's in a good quarterback battle with Devin Brown. But they lacked a couple starting offensive linemen. The top 3 receivers didn't really play much. Starting running back didn't play much. So I don't know how much you want to judge from that. You did want to see him come out in a game like that's built for kind of offenses to kind of do really good with great receivers and vanilla defenses, but is what it is. And I don't feel any less about Kyle McCord. I still would give him a slight lead, probably over Devin Brown. that also, just like the Donovan Smith thing, that's the Ohio State quarterback slot. It doesn't matter if it's Devin Brown or Kyle McCord. Both of them would be ranked really high, whoever wins that job.
I mean, the receiving core is incredible.
Yeah, right.
So I think whatever quarterback goes there, is potentially a top 10 guy. Now, if you put me in that system, I would not be. But
you'd be top 2, man.
I might complete a pass or two if they're about 5 yards or so. But no. But I agree with you. That top 10 spot is for whatever Ohio State quarterback wins that job, because you're bound to be successful with the weapons that they have there.
No
I
doubt.
mean, and the running backs catch the ball out of the backfield. Like they're a prime team to just score points. That's I mean, they're so good. Then real quick, you got Michael Penix, who led the country in passing yards last year.
Yeah.
I mean,
and he's got great weapons too, all coming back.
Yeah, I don't think you can move him down. He's got the same offense, and he's the same Michael Penix, and might even be better this year. You never know with 2 years in that system to kind of let the ball fly. And then Drake May. I mean, what more can I say? It's Drake May, honestly.
They lost Josh Downs, so we'll see who they replace him with.
They got transfer.
Likely the transfer, yep. But May is so good. And we've seen these guys, though. We've seen them come out super hyped after a really good season, lose some top receivers, and then not make it back up. Can't think of some good analogies, but I know there's a few. So, man, I like May a lot, though. I don't think he's going to be that guy. I think he's elite. And I think on our Devy rankings, which we'll be talking about, you can see those rankings live on the site. But I think we've got him right behind Caleb Williams for the guys that are remaining in the sport right now for quarterback. So I like May a lot, too.
So number 3, you guys have the second guy that we've come across who was highly touted last season that went into the transfer portal, decided to pull his name back out and go back to school. You got Austin Reed at Western Kentucky. What makes you guys put Austin Reed from Western Kentucky all the way there at the number 3 spot?
The biggest thing I can say is they just throw the ball. That offense, they just love throwing the football. And Austin Reed shows what he can do. He showed it last year when you just let him throw the football. I mean, Western Kentucky, teams like them, like we've talked about, and yes, I knocked Donovan Smith a little bit here and there, but teams like Houston, those type of teams, they just throw the football, and that's what they do.
Yeah, and he's got Malachi Corley back, and you expect that to probably be the best quarterback wide receiver stack in college fantasy next year. Probably.
I will say that I actually kind of disagree. Here's why I say that. I think that one of the things about Western Kentucky last year was their wide receiver core was like playing the lottery. Yeah. They had 6, 7, 8, 9 different guys that got some multiple targets, and it'd be a different guy from week to week. Malachi Corley started off the season absolutely hot in week 0. And had some games where he was crushing it, but there was other weeks that he just did nothing. Yeah. So you're probably going to get your yards out of Western Kentucky, but hopefully they can get a little bit more consistency and get that 9 or so guys down to like 5.
Right. Yeah, you've got him, right?
Absolutely, I do.
I only have one receiver, so hey, the second guy, I have his name. I can't think of the name. Second guy at Western Kentucky is gone, though. I think I like Malachi Corley a ton going into this year.
Oh, I do too. I do for sure.
Well, if you don't ever, just
I know. I know. Every year, you know what? And last year you tried to get a senior wide receiver for me, and I should have traded him to you. But you know what?
It would have been good for you. It would not have worked out for me. But hey, you just got to take some shots sometimes.
That's right. So top 2. We got 2 guys. We're going to go one by one. That should be a surprise to nobody that these 2 guys are going to be at the top of the list. So we got Bo Nix from Oregon at 2. So real quick, give us your thoughts on Bo Nix and why you have him all the way up at 2. And without naming who's at number 1, tell us why you did not slide him to number 1 and why he was stuck at that number 2 spot.
Okay, well, I'll start. Bo Nix, my fantasy quarterback that I never take off the starting lineup unless it's to replace with Michael Pratt. Thank you, Danny Tucker, by the way, for dropping him, and I could pick him up.
Well, I mean,
who was going to keep him when he was at Auburn? Though?
Right.
I mean, Auburn
Right.
was such a mess
Yeah.
that, he was just kind of taking up a roster spot when he was at Auburn. And that shows you what playing for a staff and an organization that knows what they're doing can do.
Yeah.
But Bo Nix, again, a guy that's getting a lot of his receivers back, and I could argue that Franklin and Nix could potentially be one of the best quarterback receiver duos this year.
Mm-hmm.
Franklin's a great receiver, also on my team. Thank you. That's what helps me get second place, by the way, Matt.
That's right.
I like getting second. But again, he's a dual threat guy. He cut down on his turnovers so much. He's just potentially, could he eventually maybe be the number one guy this year in fantasy?
Sure,
Who knows?
of course
Yeah,
he could.
for sure.
Of course he could.
But catching the guy that's at number one is going to be very difficult.
So let's go to that guy at number one. So number one, obvious, USC, Caleb Williams. So we don't need to talk about the basics. Everybody knows who Caleb Williams is. What do you guys think his ceiling is? What do you think the potential is of insanity that he could do this year if you're somebody that's a Caleb Williams owner?
Yeah, and really, like, you could see it doesn't really happen much in the NFL. You could see a little bit of tanking at the end of the year. I think he's that good. Unlike the Texans that screwed themselves this year by winning a game at the end of the year.
Good old Lovey,
Yes.
I think, was like, we're going to win this game because I
Right.
know I'm getting fired.
But I think that's potentially worthy. Like he's got so many weapons. Where that's where drafting USC is going to be really difficult. Like, love Marshawn Lloyd a ton, but he's probably going to split touches between 3 running backs.
Yep.
And then the receivers, super talented. Like they'd be great. Like you got Mario, you got you could just the list goes on and on really. And then you've got Lemon coming in as a freshman and others coming in. Branch, obviously. Like just elite talent everywhere. So he already won the Heisman last year. They're going to be on a warpath to try and win and play some defense, hopefully this year as a team and win. But as far as fantasy is concerned, there's nothing better to have a quarterback that's dual threat with experience in an offensive system that has weapons.
Yeah,
they're going to be great.
You're losing a guy, Jordan Addison, obviously.
Yep.
But you've got, like you said, the receiving core that's there. You got Singer, Williams,
yep.
all these guys that right now it's hard to pick a number one receiver because they could all potentially be a number one receiver somewhere, in my opinion. So you've got all these guys that are, fighting for like who's gonna get the ball when you could see every one of them getting 50, 60 catches. Like you just don't know what's going to happen.
Yep.
Like Caleb Williams' ceiling to me, he scored 470 points last year. Could be 520, 530. I mean, he could score a lot of
like
points.
Patrick Mahomes levels at Texas Tech. So that's incredible.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I mean, USC, their offense, and like BMAX said, that I don't see a drop in his play really. And if it's kind of funny to say that if he only scores 450 points this year, that's a drop from the year before. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
All right, so that's a look at the top 25. Coming up shows we'll be talking about running backs, wide receivers, but we do have a few follow-up questions here.
Let's go.
All right, so who outside in the top 25 from 11 to 25 do you think has the best chance of being able to jump into that top 10 by the time you have the August rankings? Because we still have transfer portal stuff that could happen.
Yep.
We still have fall practices. Who do you think has the best chance of actually jumping up from that 25 rank up into the top 10? BMAC, who do you got?
I'll go with DeQuan Finn. I don't know what else coming back along the O-line yet, but I know he's a dual threat guy and he's going to get a ton of run. If I knew Milroe was going to be the starter, I still go with DeQuan Finn. I think he's got the potential to jump up there. I like Milroe a lot there because you're looking at a dual threat kind of quarterback. Jaden Daniels would be eligible for this. Grayson McCall. He's just been so consistent. Like we know what he is. For whatever reason, even in blowouts, he's not putting up 50 fantasy points.
Yeah.
He's going to get his 30 and that's it.
I think the coaching change at Coastal Carolina, you're going to see him be feast or famine. He's either going to be a 50-point guy a week or he's going to be a 10-point guy a week because his new head coach has shown that there's times that he can put up points like there's no tomorrow, and there's times he can't do anything. So it'll be interesting to see how that pairing goes.
Yeah, I'll roll with Finn, although I would love for it to be Milroe. Who do you got, Doug?
I'm going to go with Jordan Travis.
Yeah.
I think
Jordan. No, that's cheating.
Why
We're
is that?
Outside the top 15.
Outside the top 15?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's a little more difficult, but I'm going to throw Sam Hartman in there at Notre Dame.
Yep.
I think Sam Hartman, again, great last year, and I think he's going to potentially a better spot this year. We saw what Notre Dame can do, in competitive games with somebody at quarterback that I don't think was as good as Hartman. So I think Sam Hartman could potentially slide into the top 10 for sure. And I think their schedule is pretty easy this year. But
yeah, so schedule Navy, Tennessee State. Feeling good about that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
NC State, you're feeling good about that.
Still feeling good about
it. Central Michigan, but then you go Ohio State.
Which, if they have a defense, great. If they don't,
right,
Duke could be a shootout.
Duke, Louisville.
Luckily, it's not the Louisville basketball team. I'll tell you that.
USC should be a shootout there. Pitt, and then Clemson. So this would be the fantasy playoffs then. Clemson, Wake, and Stanford. Yeah. Schedule's pretty workable there.
Pretty workable there for Notre Dame, especially ending with Stanford that is just in complete free fall right now.
Yeah. Right, for sure. But aside from my cheating and picking Jordan Travis, I'm going to go Sam Hartman would probably, for me, slide into the top 10.
All right, who is the riskiest pick putting into the top 25? Guy you think, hey, he's in the top 25 now, but you could see him just completely fall off if things don't break his way.
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, it's the guys that are in the quarterback battles, right? So we don't really know who's going to win that job at Ohio State. We have Houston, Alabama. Really don't know. Those are obviously the riskiest picks. Outside of those guys, though, who do you think it would be?
I'm going Donovan Smith. You guys already know this.
Houston quarterback, though, like outside of Houston.
But I don't think he's going to win the job. So
he
would be my riskiest pick, I guess. So a Houston quarterback in that spot.
How about this? Who would you say is a guy that's a returning starter that's on this list? A returning starter that's on this list that you think has the biggest chance of having that risk and falling off the cliff?
All right.
So
probably
be a guy in his own
for
program.
me. Probably for me, the guy at 25, Dylan Gabriel, could potentially fall off this list, I think.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much who I was thinking of too. Like him, maybe Klubnik if he ends up not getting as many rushing touchdowns and they feature Shipley a little bit more.
Yep.
That's
I feel like if you listen to this podcast over the last couple of weeks, I think you probably would also say Frank Harris, because I know you're not a believer in their offensive line situation.
Well, I just don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the
if the offensive line doesn't materialize there, I think based on some of the things you said before, that Frank Harris has a chance to slide down, not because of his talent, just because of the talent that's around him and blocking in front of him.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen what's happened to guys that have come in and killed it the year before, lose a ton of the O-line, and then they don't produce.
All right, so here's a question I got for you guys. So it could be somebody that's on the list right now or somebody whose name we don't even see. Who did you guys have the biggest battle over, and who fought to get a guy ranked either where he is now or wanted him ranked higher, and the other guy was like, nope, we can't push that other guy up to the level right now? Who is the guy that you guys had the biggest battle over, and why, and who won?
We didn't have huge battles.
No, you come up with one.
Super similar.
Probably Donovan Smith.
But I would say Donovan Smith. I mean, I'm just not high on him in general. But again, like BMAC was saying, if you're thinking of just the team quarterback in general and how they play football, yes, having a Houston quarterback in the top 25 is probably beneficial. I mean, it's going to happen. So, but the argument with who, I think, and then I don't know, maybe a guy like Drew Aller I would have put a little bit higher. And then I really personally like Michigan's quarterback, J.J. McCarthy. So
Yeah. And we don't have him as high right now. We talked about Davis Brin,
we
the
did.
Tulsa transfer, going to Georgia Southern. They were, I think, the second highest passing offense in the country last year.
Which is incredible. That's incredible that that's the case.
I know. So Brin is in a pretty good spot, but still more unknowns. We got to
Mhm.
learn more in the offseason about the O-line and the returning weapons and all that stuff to have confidence to move them up that list.
And transfer portal's open again.
Yeah.
So you never know who's going to go where and help these
Yep.
guys out. And maybe our top 25 ends up looking a little different depending on if somebody comes in or somebody leaves or whatever the case may be. Like I know TCU receiver is already transferring out. You know,
Yep.
so you got Hudson that's transferring out, who was a 5-star guy. So potentially things can change a little bit. You just never know.
What would it take for Dante Moore, one of the only like real true freshmen that we think have an opportunity? Or if I were to phrase it this way, if Nico wins the job at Tennessee and Donovan Moore wins the job at UCLA, which one would you rather have if they're both starting?
Oh, gosh, based off the offense, I'm going to go with Tennessee quarterback. I mean, that coach all of a sudden just seems to have a way with his receivers and their routes and whatever to have a receiver that's wide open every play.
Yeah.
And, you know, I would probably go Nico. And like you said, in the spring game, he looked so good.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
UCLA to me still has some questions as to, you know, what their receivers can do. They've got kids transferring in and stuff, but I think the Tennessee receivers that are filling in the role for like Hyatt and stuff, they're same quality of a receiver. I don't think they're going to miss a beat.
Yep.
All right, with that being said, that is the top 25 preseason rankings for quarterback. We hope you guys like this format. Every once in a while, we'll try to make this happen. Right now, the biggest holdup is that Doug in his contract has only got one of these per year. We may have to go back and renegotiate his contract, see if we can get him to allow there to be more than one of these a year. But let us know. Do you guys like this format? We'll see if we can make this happen as often as we can. But next week, we're going to be back to the normal StreamYard, 3 of us in 3 different locations format, talking about the top 25 running backs for 2023 preseason rankings on behalf of Brian McElfresh and Doug Gravely. My name is Matt Knowles. We thank you guys for coming out. Don't forget to like and subscribe to CFBDynasty.com. See ya.
See you guys.